This NFL Films production is a presentation of the NFL Network.
Okay. Don't move at all. You sure?
Yeah, because we got so many.
Roll 10, Mark.
All right, another damn Lawrence Taylor tribute.
It's not a tribute.
Oh, what is it?
It's a story.
25-minute kiss ass.
It's actually 45
Lawrence
minutes.
Just slobber all over even tape. Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
In the history of the NFL, few players have had the impact of Lawrence Taylor, the Picasso of pro football who revolutionized the art of defense.
He's changed the game of football because he's just so dominating. It used to be that you say, well, our back blocks him, and we go ahead and throw the pass. If you get a back blocking Lawrence Taylor, you lose.
Lawrence Taylor was one of those guys that revolutionized the game. When you played against the Giants with Lawrence Taylor, you had to game plan for him. And throughout my 17 years, there were a lot of great players and a lot of great teams, but first and foremost, he stands out in my mind. And the Giant defense is because of him, because you did not execute a play without knowing where he was, and not only as a quarterback, but as a complete offense.
Hey, come on, baby. You can't pussyfoot up in there. You gotta run it. You gotta run it.
I can't think of anyone that I know. There are some that are close to him, people that I know, that had a greater ability to will things to happen.
Back, Sanderson looking in the end zone for a pass. He's looking for King, intercepted. He's going to go down the right side. Lawrence down to the 20, 30, down to the 40. He might go all the way. He's going to go in. Up dog. You're rooting, Dick. Oh, yes, but listen, what an effort.
There have been 10 Pro Bowls, 2 World Championships, and 1 unanimous MVP award. And yet you sometimes get the idea that Lawrence Taylor is never satisfied with his all-world status.
Oh, I get it. You don't want me to leave because of the game Sunday. Look, man, opportunities like this don't happen often. I mean, I've been to the championship bowl, but I ain't never been to another planet.
No, he's not E.T. He's L.T.
Son, I gotta do better than this.
Fans are coming. Aikman back inside the 5, throws, tipped high, intercepted by Taylor. He'll score! Oh, Lawrence the magician.
Each year, every NFL general manager, coach, and scout pays Lawrence Taylor the ultimate compliment by scouring the nation in hopes of landing the new LT.
When somebody say their next LT, they're not talking about a dunce. They're not talking about a guy that they don't think highly of him. It stands for
Greatness. I just want to say, all right, put it like that.
On a Monday night in 1983, Billy Sims, one of the quickest runners of his time, was caught from behind by Lawrence Taylor. It was one play among many that symbolized an intensity and desire rarely exhibited in major professional sports. Indeed, to find a style of play that is reminiscent to Taylor's, you may have to go back to another era. Once there was an equally popular New York legend who pushed the limits of competitive passion on a far different playing field.
You talk about comparing Lawrence Taylor with the great athletes. And it's interesting, somebody mentioned Jackie Robinson the other day, and the similarity there is that each seems to be playing with a bonfire inside him. Jackie Robinson was in flames when he played baseball. Lawrence Taylor has been in flames when he's played football.
Woo! Yeah, Mr. Referee! Get on his butt! Get him, Ref! Get him! Way to go, Cawthorn! That's my boy! Woo!
My first few years in the league, and first 5 or 6 years, I brought enthusiasm to the team. Nobody, you know, people would score a touchdown, and everybody would, hey, or somebody would make a play on defense, nobody would say anything. I think I brought enthusiasm back to the game, to have people get excited about getting excited. Excitement.
Cat quickness.
I'm ready.
He joined the Giants in 1981, everyone in the NFL was certain the prize rookie would step right into the lineup. Everyone, except his head coach.
I remember talking to Ray Perkins, and Ray was very conscious, like, of the pecking order. He had been in the league, and when do you move the veteran out and you put the rookie in? And we had a discussion about that, and I said, Ray, that will be the easiest decision that you have to make. And we had a linebacker playing right, who was a right linebacker, a fellow from Penn State, I remember. And the first day we lined up in practice, all of a sudden Lawrence was playing right linebacker. The coach didn't have to do anything. The player was smart enough to know. It was John Scorpan, who was a very bright, fine young man. And there was no way that he he was going to play in that spot, and he knew it, and Lawrence lined up there from day number one. He had this great intensity and this great quickness, and when the coaches saw that, they began to realize we have to exploit the abilities of this player, and that's what he did. He could do things that other players couldn't do.
I played a different type of football game than I think that they were used to, that I brought something different to the table that maybe hadn't been seen in a while around here. But up until that point, a linebacker was just a linebacker. All he did was, he stopped the run, he went back and defended against the pass. The motor skills were just like anybody else. But as Bill Parcells watched me and evaluated me, he allowed me to do a lot of different things, allowed me to rush the passer because most of the time I made so many mistakes in the pass defense. I was supposed to be dropping on this play, so I wouldn't drop or I'd rush, and that was my answer to everything. If you don't know what you're doing, just rush the quarterback. Hell, see what happens.
What happened was a pro football revolution. There had never been a defensive force quite like Lawrence Taylor, a man who could disdainfully crumple up an offensive game plan and send its beleaguered creators back to the drawing board.
He changed the way the game was played on offense. They had to do something different. He may have invented the one-back offense. Joe Gibbs started using the one-back offense to deal with Lawrence Taylor.
Taylor's impact on his own team was just as forceful. For nearly 2 decades, the Giants had struggled, posting only 2 winning seasons. It was no accident that the arrival of Lawrence Taylor coincided with New York's first playoff berth in 18 years.
In the early years, they had some great teams here, and I'd known that in the last few years, 10 or so, 10, 15, 20, how many years it was, that they hadn't won a lot of football games, hadn't been to the playoffs.
In the final game of the regular season, the Giants would finally reach the playoffs if they could beat the Dallas Cowboys.
You know, this is what you've been waiting for. This is what the whole town has waited for, and I was able to cause a fumble. And here's opportunity. I've caused something here. We've got the fumble. We get the ball in like chip shot range, and LT, you've done it. You've put the Giants into the playoffs. So I'm really, ecstatic about this. I'm thinking, well, wow, commercials, everything. And then Danilo, he misses the field goal.
Here comes the ball. Here's the kick by Danilo. No good. No good. Hit the upright.
And so, there goes your emotion again. You're down now at your lowest point. I cannot believe this. But my roommate back then, Byron Hunt, he was able to cause another turnover right afterwards and for the interception. And we went down and we scored. And it was the first time the Giants had been in the playoffs. And needless to say, this place went crazy.
Here comes the snap. Here's the boot. It looks good. It's good. The Giants win. The Giants win. The Giants win.
In 1981, Lawrence Taylor made the Giants a playoff contender. In 1986, he made them a Super Bowl champion. Despite the lingering fallout from off-field problems, Taylor enjoyed the greatest season of his career. He shattered the team sack record, earned All-Pro and Pro Bowl honors, and was a unanimous choice for league MVP, the first time a defender had won the award since 1971.
1986, I was coming off some adversity, so I had a lot to prove to my teammates, myself, fans, a lot of other things. A lot of people had my family, a lot to prove to a lot of different people. But I remember as I started to get my confidence back that I was still the same Lawrence Taylor. I still had what it took to play the game. I started to play better and better and better. Just like the team, we turned into a Super Bowl season, and I was able to turn my year into a MVP year. Just knowing, because anytime, any game can knock you out, any play can knock you out, and you got to be on your game the whole time, every play, 60 minutes, every game. That's what kept us going. And I think that's how I was able to win an MVP that year, or the accolades that year, because I was able to stay on my game, stay intense, because I had something to prove.
In 1986, MVP was spelled LT, and the Giants star continued to excel in the conference playoffs.
Montana inside the 10, throws wildly, intercepted. There goes Taylor down to the 20. 10, touchdown. LT, way to go.
The bitter booing of Giant seasons past was now replaced by a Meadowlands chant exalting New York's greatest football hero. After resounding playoff victories over the 49ers and Redskins, Lawrence Taylor and the Giants were Super Bowl bound at last. Lawrence Taylor's finest season ended with the New York Giants' greatest triumph.
Giants 39, the Broncos are 20. The Giants have accomplished something that many people thought they would never see. The best in the world, man, for 1 year.
I've had a lot of accolades. I've had a lot of media coverage. And so how much is too much? And I think as time has goes by, it makes it easier for me to make the transition back to Lawrence Taylor, away from LT and back to Lawrence Taylor. And and I don't want to get to a point where I start getting a big head about myself. That's sad, babe. I knew it. Good. Hey,
can I take a picture with you?
Yeah, bro.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Hey, Brian, how you doing, sir? That's a real nice. Who did this?
Mr. Giles. Garrett Giles.
That's nice.
Thank you. Isn't that fabulous?
You did this? I hope you got another one for sale, right?
The essence of Lawrence is really his honesty, his dead honesty. You ask him a question, you get an answer. Now, that may not be the answer that somebody else wants to hear, whether it's the coach or the general manager or another team, but you get a dead, honest answer.
Nowhere to go. So,
in 1993, everyone has the same question.
I talked to Dan, and he's excited about the prospects of what can happen for this year coming up. I'm excited because he's excited, and if he's excited, I want to be a part of that. And so we talk over some certain things, and probably looks like if my leg is NFL ready, I will be back with the Giants.
The injury. In 1992, Lawrence Taylor, for the first time, faced football mortality. He had known all about career-ending injuries. On a Monday night in 1985, it was his clean tackle that rendered such a fate to quarterback Joe Theismann. The fact that Taylor missed only one game in his first 10 seasons says more about his fortitude than just his plain good fortune.
I don't think there's ever been a player who's had any greater tolerance for pain than Lawrence Taylor. I mean, he just refuses to accept that he's hurt or that he won't get well quicker than anybody else.
The most unusual aspect of Lawrence Taylor's Ironman endurance is the fact that he's never been one to shy away from physical contact.
high school and grade school. Hitting has always been a part of everything we did. You know, you got to, hit something. I played baseball, I played basketball, and great sports, and but nothing gave you a thrill or sent chills up your body or excitement through your head like football, because of the contact. The contact was always the most important thing to me.
LT was at his menacing best whenever he spotted number 7 Ron Jaworski across the line of scrimmage. Despite Ron's league MVP and Super Bowl credentials, the Eagle quarterback could never escape the giant linebacker.
Great quarterback, and I think he was a great leader of men. But it was something about Ron, because at the time when I was in the league, when Ron was in the league, there was like, let's say 28 out of the 28 quarterbacks, he may have been the slowest. May have been. Ron was not going to do a whole lot of running.
Except running for his life from Lawrence Taylor. No other quarterback in the NFL has been pursued more fiercely or sacked more often by LT than Ron Jaworski.
The one thing that stands out is playing against the Giants, I always had to know where he was. I mean, the minute I walked out of the huddle, it was, where's LT? Where's LT? Where's LT? And I mean, I knew when he was coming. He'd give me that little grin, that little wink, and I knew the darn guy was coming after me no matter where he was. We were playing the Giants up the Meadowlands in 1986, and now I've played against LT for a lot of years, and Buddy Ryan says, well, Byers going to block him, we can handle him. And I'm thinking, I'm talking to Ted Plum, our offensive coordinator, geez, why don't we slide the line? Why don't we get a tackle out of him? Oh, Buddy said that Keith Byers can block him. I said, I've played against this guy for 7 or 8 years now, and when he comes, nobody can block him. Well, I'll tell you, the game went on. I think the first time I dropped back, I got whacked in the side of the head. Second time he comes, and he comes charging in there. Keith comes, charging at him. He's going to, he's going to knock him down, and LT gives him the old lay and goes over him, sacks me. The third time he comes in, and I guess Keith is now thinking a little bit, well, I'm trying to switch up. He goes down to cut him. LT jumps 6 feet in the air over the top of him, drills me in the back again. I said, yeah, buddy, you did a heck of a job of really putting Keith Byers on him. The next game, we're playing the Giants. Buddy says, I think we're going to slide the line this time. I said, thank you, Coach.
At his New Jersey restaurant and sports bar, the good-natured Jaworski agreed to take one more bruising video stroll down memory lane with Lawrence Taylor.
You see a halfback picked him up. Giamona didn't do a good job, couldn't handle him with the size. You see a fullback couldn't handle him. You see a tackle couldn't handle him. You see Ron Baker, a guard, couldn't handle him. I mean, what do you do? How do you stop this guy? You don't.
one thing about Ron was that he always liked to throw to his right. So, and I'm always coming from the right side, so it's always going to be a blind shot for me. Seems like every time we play him, I always would have at least 2 to 3 picture perfect. You know, he'd be like that, like a Heisman Trophy, and I mean, picture perfect. I'm like, you can't get no better than this. You coming straight down on him, full head of steam. There's nothing a defensive player would want any better than that. And every game, he would give him about 2 or 3 of those.
Boy, I must be a masochist wanting to watch this. You know, there's vintage LT to me. He has a chance to probably make a real big hit, and yet has great presence and goes to strip the ball. He you know, just knows what he's doing. Maybe he took his shots at me, but I think there were times he could have really cleaned my clock, and because of maybe the mutual friendship we had for each other, he just made the play rather than go with the real hard hit. But he was a very, very clean player. The one thing about LT, he was aggressive, hard-hitting, but he was never a cheap shot. LT, you came in the game at the right time. There were a lot of slow, stationary quarterbacks around at the time. The Cunninghams weren't there. The Elways weren't there. The guys that could move around. So thanks to guys like me, you became the star you are.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, hey, if I had about another 27 Ron Jaworskis left in the league, I wouldn't retire for the next 50 years, I'm telling you. That's not right. I'll tell you, he's right there. Look, he made it. Yeah, he sent me through my first couple, 2 or 3 Pro Bowls.
Hey, I didn't send you to all them Pro Bowls. How about the guys that were supposed to block you? They were the ones. Why don't you talk about those guys, not me? They didn't know where that X was. You did.
The Islanders and Flyers tied at 5. Pittsburgh beat Washington, and Chicago sacked Detroit 8-6.
That was hard. That was hard, Mo. That was hard. Man,
now you have more respect for me and the other guys in the business.
In the movies, though, we got takes. You know,
you can get over it.
The meeting is over.
It's over when I say it's over. Hey, you're out of line. You're way out of line.
It was funny playing golf with LT because he's LT and has this notoriety of being an outstanding golfer. And by the way, he is a very good golfer, but he's always got to be the big hitter.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh, there's trouble!
I don't know. We can make this whole thing a golf video. The 10 favorite tips by LT.
No, listen, I'm going to be honest now. When he starts talking about golf and he's giving me tips and stuff, I shake my head and, oh, yeah, and I don't hear one word he says.
Grip it and rip it.
Oh, my God.
Yes! Yes!
Hey, and that used to be my motto. I don't care where it goes, but it won't be here long.
This is called optimism at its best.
Is that a club he doesn't like? Is that
I want to see this.
You make it pretty.
You better have some Band-Aids ready here. Watch this. I've never seen a rock lose yet. Lost the head of the club, and not only that, he hit Bob Hope's card with the shot.
Everybody wants to get on me because I hit one bad shot a little bit right into the mountain on the rocks. And I take a double bogey on the hole. But do we also realize I shoot 74 for the day?
So he pulls up to my house this once, honest to God, he calls at 6 o'clock. I said, where in the hell are you going to play golf at 6 o'clock? But the guy does, he truly does get up early to play. Pulls into my house. It's about 7 o'clock now. He's got black leather pants on. And he goes, do you got a golf shirt that goes with these?
Are you calling anything airborne good, Mark Kelly?
A Lawrence Taylor golf video is a possibility. Maybe. But his grip it and rip it tip may never be as successful as his advice on how to grip it and strip it.
When I go to tackle someone, anybody can just tackle you and bring you down to the ground. Anybody can do that. And my son can do that. My daughters can do it even better. But I look for something extra. You know, when you're going for a quarterback, going to sack the quarterback, he's already got his back turned. He can't see you anyway. So, I mean, or you're running behind somebody, they can't see you anyway. So what I try to do is bring the ball with us. Bring the ball with them. That, because it adds something to it. And now it's funny how around the league, everybody goes for the strip. And I like to think that they've been watching some of my highlight tapes.
Lawrence Taylor has always been a headliner. He is one of a precious few NFL players who has never wilted under the torrid glare of the media spotlight, often reserving his greatest performances for the largest audience.
I remember that game was a Thanksgiving Day game, and I had a bad knee. Matter of fact, I didn't even start that game, and I was getting kind of teed off about that. I was just acting like a little kid over on the sideline, cussing and fussing and not having a good time whatsoever. And I said, well, if they tell me to go in, I'm not going in.
While LT sulked, the Lions strolled through the undermanned Giants defense. And the pain in Taylor's knee was quickly forgotten.
Well, the second quarter, you know, Bill looks over at me and said, listen, get ready to go in there. Boom, I'm out there.
In the blink of an eye, Taylor altered the tempo of the football game. Running lanes closed and blocking schemes crumbled as LT personally destroyed the once prosperous Lions attack. With the score tied and the Lions at the Giants' goal line, LT picked that moment to score the first points of his NFL career.
The pass, I saw it in my mind. I knew exactly what the play was before it even developed. And I said, if they throw this ball here, I'm going to go all the way.
They've got King on the left side as a running back. Sanders is looking in, zone for a pass. He's looking for King, intercepted. He's going to go down the right side. Lawrence down to the 20, 30, down to the 40. He might go all the way. He's going to go in.
And I remember when I got to about the 40-yard line, I said, what I want to do when I get in this end zone? I don't have anything. I don't know all the shuffles and the slam dunk across the backboard. So I'm saying what I'm going to do. So I decided to slide and tore all the skin off my leg. I tell you, big old strawberries. But that's one of my favorite plays of my career.
Taylor virtually duplicated these heroics 6 years later, when another national TV audience under a different dome, in even more dire circumstances. Fallen quarterback Phil Simms was on the sidelines, with young Jeff Hostetler making his first NFL start, a debut that opened with a flourish.
Hostetler drops back, looks left. He's going left and going way deep, way down. He's got Baker at the 40-yard line. Still his feet to the 30. He'll score. What a pass by Hostetler, 85 yards to Baker.
The Giants would not score another touchdown for the rest of the night, so Lawrence Taylor took it upon himself to seize control of the game. All he did was make 10 tackles with 3 quarterback sacks and 2 forced fumbles, holding the Saints at bay until the Giants could find a way to win.
I remember in the game in New Orleans, I think it was 1988 season, and after that game, in a way, he was so great that night that's one of the few games that I ever saw that I felt that a defensive player won the game. Lawrence Taylor that night won that game. Lawrence had a terrible shoulder injury. He just shouldn't have been playing, and he had to redo the harness between series. Every time he'd go to the sideline, they'd fix the shoulder on him.
His will made him ignore things like pain sometimes. People call it determination, whatever it is, he just had it, and he just would not give in. He was going to make it the way he wanted to make it.
Deep into the fourth quarter, Taylor and the defense stopped New Orleans one last time, giving kicker Paul McFadden the opportunity to complete the story with a happy ending.
This is the game. It's on the line right here. The 25-yard spot. Ball is up, and it's going to be good. Giants are on top.
Paul McFadden made the field goal, but Lawrence Taylor had won the game.
Well, I think it was his greatest moment ever. I mean, I know Coach Parcells, who doesn't give anybody a lot of credit, too often. I remember after it was over, he was saying something about it, and he started calling him Superman after that. And he meant it. And I tell you, he was almost in tears when the game was over because he knew he'd just witnessed something that was beyond belief.
2 years later, the Giants journeyed to Candlestick Park for a late-season battle with the defending world champion 49ers. The long-awaited duel between a pair of once-beaten teams was a closely fought game that San Francisco ultimately won. The Niners, cocky and confident, began making their reservations for a three-peat Super Bowl appearance, but the Giants would not go away. After beating the Chicago Bears in the first round of the playoffs, Taylor and his teammates relished the opportunity for a San Francisco rematch.
They said the Giants were dead.
Hey, they said we were done, baby.
Hey, I don't understand them.
They stuck a fork in us and said we were done.
Hey, San Francisco, they're back. We're back.
They're back.
San Francisco, here we come. Going back to California, guys.
I love talking about this game here because both games that year, the playoff game, which you're talking about now, and the game prior to that, the time we met prior to that, when it was 7-3, the two greatest football games I've ever played in. since I've been in the National Football League. Why? Simply because everything else was completely blocked out. It was just our 11 people on the field and their 11 people on the field. And I tell you, it was just like a hard fought throughout the game. I had no sense of time. I had no idea how much time was left on the clock. I had no idea what quarter we was in. I had no idea what the score of the game was. It was just like one of those, like a battle that just took forever to end. You know, it just went on and on and on. I just got lost in the game. I tell you, it was very exciting.
That's where to jam on that too, okay? Keep hammering them. Keep hammering those outside receivers.
Taylor would have a crucial role in 2 key plays that decided the outcome of the game.
Strong side right with the tight end. Montana looking. Plenty of time. Rolls away. Now runs away. Eludes a tackle. His head fumbles the ball. Free ball.
Leonard Marshall caught him with his helmet right in the middle of the back, upper part of the back. You know, a good legit hit.
Marshall's bullseye was made possible by Taylor's relentless charge, pursuit which forced Montana into the onrushing path of the sack and a game-ending injury. 2 New York field goals narrowed San Francisco's fourth quarter lead to a single point. But unless the Giants forced one more turnover, the Niners would be on their way to a Super Bowl three-peat.
Young Kearns, hands off, Craig into the line. Giants hold him, fumble. The Giants have the ball.
Lawrence Taylor came up with the ball.
I do remember that play, but I remember it only in the context of that the great players make the great plays at the crucial times. That was not a surprise to me because he'd exhibited that characteristic over the course of his career. It's when the most is on the line, that's when the greatness shows.
Right, baby. We're a minute away from Tampa Bay, baby. A minute away now. A minute away, baby.
Ball will be spotted at the 32. Snap, spot. Kick is away. It's got the distance. It is good. Good.
And the Giants are going to Tampa Bay. It's over for the three-peats. It's over.
2 clutch plays from Lawrence Taylor allowed the New York Giants to win the NFC crown and earn a berth in the Super Bowl for the second time in 4 years. On a day dominated by much larger issues, the New York Giants and the Buffalo Bills met in Super Bowl 25. A strategy that de-emphasized pass rushing limited Lawrence Taylor's effectiveness. But the intangibles he first brought to the Giants in 1981 were evident throughout the game. In this, the closest and most dramatic Super Bowl of all, it was the team that out-hit and out-hustled its opponent that ultimately prevailed.
Snap, spot, in the air. It's got the distance. It is. No good.
Once again, Lawrence Taylor's Giants were champions. But for Lawrence Taylor, the person, the victory was symbolic of success that had nothing to do with Super Bowl rings.
He's fallen into some problems. He's recognized that he's wrong. He knows the difference between right and wrong, and he knows he does some things that he shouldn't. And he's trying to he's tried to get his act together as he has, and deserves a lot of credit. But I think that he's a very decent person. But I think if you're playing left tackle and you're trying to block him, I don't know how decent he is.
The best thing I've accomplished, because I've done some bad things in my life. I'm not a choir boy. Of course, we all know this. And I was able to overcome those things, not through just because I'm through my personality, no, because through my play as a ball player, which allowed me to show the real LT or show his personality. Now, I've done a lot of good things in the world of football, but I've done a lot of bad things also, a couple. And without Bill Parcells, Bill Belichick, George, the Giant organization, my friends on the team, my friends outside of football, my family, of course. I think I would not have made it in this world, pretty much, because without those guys, without the people I've just mentioned, I would have just fell by the wayside. But those guys keep staying behind me, pushing me, saying everything's going to be all right. Hey, allowed me to stay in there and fight, and I'm very appreciative for that.
He has been the premier defensive player of his generation, a pioneer who has become the paragon of the modern-day linebacker. But his greatest contribution has been to his team. Before Lawrence Taylor came to the Giants, they had been losers for nearly 2 decades. Since Lawrence Taylor's arrival, they have been winners and champions.
1987, the New York Giants won their first Super Bowl behind a powerful performance by their quarterback Phil Simms. The Super Bowl MVP was nearly flawless as he hit on 22 of 25 passes, good for 3 touchdowns, and the fulfillment of a dream.
I always dreamed that I would play in the Super Bowl, play well, be on the winning team, and you know, and I had myself winning, being the MVP of the game in my dreams too. I mean, I had, and I think that all of the athletes, all of us, all people, we dream, and you always, hell, why would I want to dream of going to the Super Bowl and losing? You know, if I'm going to dream, I'm going to do it up.
On that fateful day in January of 1987, Phil Simms led the Giants into the promised land, ending a 30-year championship drought. It was truly a day of deliverance for this long-suffering NFL franchise. But above all, it was a day of redemption for the blonde-haired quarterback from tiny Morehead State who first came to New York in 1979 as a rather unpopular #1 draft pick.
New York Giants first-round selection. Quarterback Phil Simms, Morehead State.
The booing carried over to the playing field. Although Simms displayed considerable talent and a much-needed boyish enthusiasm, there were some who thought he did not have the stomach to make it in New York. His first 5 seasons ended with injury. The promise of a great career was also paralyzed by a nagging self-doubt that seems to test all great athletes at some time in their life.
I many times had said, well, maybe this is the way it's going to be. You know, maybe you're not quite as good as you think you are, and maybe you're just not going to get a chance to show that you can do the job because of injuries, because of this. And it was tough, and I had nothing else to fall back on. It's like I said, well, I think I'll just quit and go coach. I couldn't do that, so I just hung in there and I played and I kept doing my best, working out, doing what I could do, and things turned around for me.
With the patience of Job, Phil Simms overcame adversity. By 1986, he had enough talent around him to fulfill his potential and lead the Giants through a memorable season. It was a year of clutch 4th-down plays and dramatic last-second victories. It was a season of come-from-behind heroics and noble purpose. For Phil Simms, there was little doubt that the mental toughness he displayed in 1986 was rooted during the early years of frustration that could have devoured a lesser man.
Here's a guy who's had to fight through adversity probably as much or more than anybody else, with a press that has been on him and the fans have been on him. But he had to fight through it by himself, and I think that you know, he willed himself into being an outstanding performer.
One of my friends in college said one time, He says the worst thing you can do is ever beat Phil in anything, because he will leave there and go and practice until he's good enough, and he will come back and beat you. And I think, and he's right, that sums up my personality, and so far in my life, if things don't work well, I'll go away and try to get it done until I can come back and make a respectable showing and get it done.
Phil Simms, an inspiration to all those athletes who have been kicked and been down and told they were not good enough. Phil Simms, perhaps the greatest quarterback in Giant history, and truly one of New York's finest.
Like Bill Parcells, the New York Giants of the 1980s were hard and merciless. After a disastrous first year as coach, he knew they would have to be.
I'll never forget in '83 in the offseason, he came to me and says, you know, Simms, I almost got fired this year, but this coming year, we're going to do things my way, run it down the other team's throat, be the bully, and just hold on and win a close game.
From then on, Parcells and the Giants decimated opponents, using the football equivalent of a punch in the mouth.
Come on, run with power, run with some power. See some power, Jumbo.
We were a ground-oriented team, a team that could run the ball.
But the Giants' true power was found in their dominating defense.
We were just stronger than everybody else. We just beat people into submission.
They were what Bill Parcells is. I mean, they just were Parcells. He was just a New Jersey mook who just went in there and just, you know, you want to fight? All right, let's fight. I'm going to beat you.
He had strange ways of motivating us. He would motivate you through fear.
Get up on the line! Don't you know how much time's on the clock? You almost cost us a chance, son.
I'll tell you, you get in a fight and you get thrown out of this game, you're going home for good, okay? Just so you know.
Whatever you thought about him as coaching, he was rougher than what you can even imagine. He was rough.
Shut up, Simms. Now don't be a damn no-class player.
He's got more speed. Hey, I'll coach the team, okay, Fred?
Shut up. Timeout. Will, come here.
Whether there's a little vile language every once in a while, what can be construed by an outsider as disrespect, and it's really not.
Get in the game, man.
I don't think it's unhealthy. And we did have a little of it. I mean, I got into it with the players sometimes very, very strongly.
The game is so hard physically and mentally, there has to be some friction there. Nobody wants to wake up every day and go, well, I just want to run myself in the ground today. Here we go. A coach has to push you to that.
Perfect. Just go run and catch that. Don't make any don't worry about doing it perfect. It ain't gonna be perfect. Just go play.
Hey, fellas, this is what you work all off season for. This is why you lift all them weights. This is why you do all that.
All right, Ingy, today's your day, honey. You got a big one today. You're gonna have a big play today. I can smell it.
Despite his demeanor, Parcells considered players who shared his vision family.
He made his rounds with every player on that team one way or another during the course of a week so that everyone knew that he cared about them.
How you doing, kid? Proud of you. Tough guy, kid. I think every player deserves a chance to win. They're out there. They work hard. They work harder than people know. And if you don't give them a chance to win, you're cheating them.
I sat in the weight room one day, and remember this like it was yesterday, a couple years after he left. We're sitting around, and we were talking about it, and I said, I'll never admit it to him to his face, but he was right. You know, and we all started laughing, and they all agreed. He goes, yeah, I know, let's don't ever admit it. Don't tell anybody, but Bill was right. However he taught us, that gave us a chance to win.
And there was one thing his players weren't afraid to say to his face.
He wanted to win. A lot of them have said that. That means more to me than anything. Well, he was a pain in the neck. Well, he was this. Well, he was that. But we knew he wanted to win.
Our free pass rusher of all time, Lawrence Taylor.
Is he dropping or is he coming? You look and you're like, he's coming, and you're just like, man.
Relentless explosiveness.
Sacks, pain.
You talk about devastating? Huh.
You knew Lawrence Taylor was going to kill that quarterback at one point in the football game.
LT,
He hit like he weighed 300 pounds.
The only word I could use is he's just awesome. He was awesome.
There's been not a more disruptive force, I think, in the history of defensive football than Lawrence Taylor.
Finest defensive football player I think ever played the game.
We never saw anyone like LT, and I don't think we ever will again.
The reason why LT was as great as he was, no one had ever had that kind of speed on that size of a body before. Most physically gifted linebacker of all time, it's not even close, Lawrence Taylor.
I played baseball, I played basketball, but nothing gave you a thrill or sent chills up your body or excitement through your head like football because of the contact. The contact was always the most important thing to me.
But we're talking about pass rushers. I mean, we got to start with Taylor, right? Don't we have to start? I mean, come on. You know, I mean, a psychopath. I'm sending the psychopath. Give me a choice between a rational man and a psychopath that I'll take the psychopath any day.
Go out there like a bunch of crazed dogs. I mean, that's Lawrence Taylor to me.
Hey, baby, let's go out there like a bunch of crazed dogs. Have some fun.
He was tough. He hated everybody. Tried to tear your head off when he got to you.
Quickness, strength, throwing guys to the ground.
Oh, Lawrence, the magician.
LT was manhandling. I mean, he would just, you're in the way, he just picks you. I wouldn't want to get sacked by him, you know.
He would take him out physically and mentally.
Hey, Shula, you better hope I never get back in there. I'm going to kick your...
Guys would go into a shell when they played against him. He was a tough, physical guy and backed up his talk with his play.
I got to do better than this.
He changed the way the game was played on offense. They had to do something different.
You put the running back on him. Well, that wouldn't work. So then you move the fullback to running back position, put the bigger back on him. He couldn't block him. So then we'd put a tight end over on that side and rush and then go, to slow him down. Well, that didn't work. Then we started turning the tackle out and putting the running back up inside on the linebacker, and he'd beat the tackle. None of them worked real well.
Taylor is the greatest linebacker ever, but he's not our #1 pass rusher. The reason is not how tough he was, it's how he got many of his sacks.
When you talk about pass rushers, it's so unfair to compare how Lawrence Taylor got to the quarterback and as a pass rusher to a defensive lineman. I mean, Lawrence Taylor, sometimes he was never even touched because you just didn't know where he was coming from.
Taylor was allowed to stand up and rush against little guys, tailbacks. They had Lawrence Taylor matched up on the weakest pass blocker very often.
Taylor will always be #1 in terms of his spectacular playmaking talents, but because he was free to roam, LT comes in at #3 on the countdown.